Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Damsels and Dingbats. I am GM Renavion. Friends and family know me as Jeremiah. Making this video largely to introduce myself, to kind of give an idea of what Damsels and Dingbats is. Uh, Really, I started creating YouTube videos because, as you can tell by my call name or whatever you want to call it, I am a game master. I do run tabletop and online game groups, role playing games. I decided after 20 years of running games that it would be cool to kind of record my game sessions and catch some of the hilarity that occurs during my games. Um, I thought it would be a novel idea to record that and start putting them online to share with other people. So, YouTube now exists, and it's a suitable place to post such things. Really, the kids, my stepson's friends, they all have YouTube channels about different things, and they really kind of turned me on to the idea. Um, I've posted some animation videos that I've made, really bad ones, by the way. But hey, I'm teaching myself animation, uh, using whatever free software I can find as I go. Um, but anyway, the real reason I'm doing this is because I've been posting these videos, and I've become aware that I've actually got more viewers than I've actually got real life friends, which is telling me there are a couple of you I don't know. So, giving an introduction of who I am, what I do, what Damsels and Dingbats is, it seems like an appropriate thing to do at this point. As I said, my real name is Jeremiah. I'm a 36-year-old man who's been gaming his entire life, trying to introduce it to the new generation. It's a lot more popular now than it was when I was younger. So passing it down to the kids is not as difficult, as it once was. They're all very interested. They all get into it. I made myself a little checklist here of things I'd like to talk about. I'm probably going to skip all over the place because I've never done this before. I apologize. I don't have a webcam or some sort of video source for you. Again, I'm just getting into this, so if this becomes something I do on a regular basis, I will end up getting some sort of video source. Though I have no idea why you would want to see my ugly mug. I guess putting a face to the voice, you know, it's not going to kill me. It might traumatize you, but we'll get to that when the time comes. Um, I am engaged to a beautiful woman named Tara. She's been gaming as long as I have, though she's never actually run a game herself, which means her stepson, or my stepson, her son Tyler, is really big into games. I was very blessed to have become a member of this family because a lot of gamers, they, you know, finding that gamer chick, and not only a gamer chick, but this woman with a kid, and they're both gamers, and we immediately have these common bonds. It's like I said, it's been a true blessing, and you know, shout out to both of you. I love you both. I'm grateful for you. But I'm not going to give last names because, I want to save that embarrassment for later. That way I have ammo against them. All right. Anyway, as I said, I've been gaming most of my life. Ironically, I started role playing Dungeons and Dragons when I was in middle school. Um, and I say ironically because I actually started gaming because I was a loner. I was very uncomfortable around people. I moved around a lot. I didn't have a lot of friends, and I got into the hobby because uh, I just transferred to this new school. Uh, kind of doing the lone wolf thing, eating my lunch in the cafeteria over by myself. And the next thing I know, this brick of a guy. I mean, he wasn't fat. I mean, this guy was all muscle and all head. I mean, he looked like he had a bobblehead. I mean, later on, I found out his nickname was actually Head for that reason, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, he walks up to the table and looks down at me and he says, "You play Dungeons and Dragons?" And I don't know why I said it, but I did. I said yes. And he's like, "We need another person at our table. You want to play?" And I took a leap of faith, stepped out, joined their group, and they became like the best friends I have even today. You know, when I rank my top best friends, the individuals in that group are still way up at the top, and I haven't talked to most of them in 10, 15, 20 years. But that's the common bond that we shared was the love of the game. Um, I started in the early '90s, and by the late '90s, I was actually running my own games with people. I discovered that the only thing I enjoyed more than playing the games was designing them and running them and getting that sense of fulfillment when, after a good game session, your party walks away from the table and they're laughing, they've had a good time, and they talk about the game session for weeks, or, several months down the road, somebody goes, "Hey, you remember when this happened?" And, you know, it was at my table. Yeah, I remember when it happened. The fact that you remember it happened, that's awesome. That makes me feel good. That's why I'm in the hobby, so that, I can share and I can help make these awesome moments for people. I can't stand people in general, but those friends that I do have, those close knit uh, gamers that I have in my life, I'd die for them. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say it. I mean, these are they're good people. Um, Damsels and Dingbats is actually something that I came up with shortly after I started doing this YouTube stuff, because I decided if I was going to have a channel where I was going to share the experiences of my group, um, it would be kind of cool if the group had a name. And damsels and dingbats, you cut that down, that's D&D, so it was kind of suitable. But really all damsels and dingbats is just pretty much anybody who's ever gamed with me, gamed at my table, run me at their table, become my friends. Whether you're as old as I am and breathing dust, or you're not even out of high school yet, you're either a damsel or you're a dingbat. And that's pretty much what damsels and dingbats is. I'm posting a lot of the online gaming that I'm going to be doing here shortly, so that I'm actually running two groups. I've got the online group that I run, which is largely people my own age, from the United States and Europe. Um, and then I've got the tabletop group, which I run here at my own home, and that's largely my stepson and his friends. And so what I'm doing is I'm recording the online session so that the kids kind of get an opportunity to get an idea of what how the older generation does it, the type of things they're into. And you'd be surprised, it's really not that different. It's about getting together, having a good time, maybe having a couple laughs, maybe squirting something out your nose because you're laughing so hard. But the point is, it doesn't matter if you're 8 or 80. If you're a role player, you're in it for the same reason. So there's that bond there for everybody. um yeah, as I said, I've been gaming since the early '90s. I've survived basically 5 editions of Dungeons and Dragons. I've played and run a host of other games by other companies, but Dungeons and Dragons has largely been the backbone of my gaming experience. I started playing with the original Advanced Dungeons and Dragons that came out, ironically, in my birth. It came out in '79 when I was born. Um, Now, in 2016, we're all the way up to fifth edition. Things kind of accelerated there for a while, but I've run them all. I even dabbled in Pathfinder for a little while, which I guess technically isn't Dungeons and Dragons because it's led by another company. But let's face it, it's Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, same thing. Um, I've watched gaming go from back when I was in middle school and high school. It was pretty much the nerd's hobby. If you were into any kind of major gaming, it didn't matter if it was console gaming, card gaming, role playing. You were a nerd. That just wasn't the it wasn't as big as it is now. It wasn't as socially acceptable now. And since TSR was bought out by Wizards of the Coast back in '97, I've watched the hobby spread from the tabletop into video games, MMOs, movies. Social media is just swamped with gaming videos and you name it. So basically, my weirdness, that I had when I was a kid has become the social norm. Everyone loves to game now, and that's why I was saying earlier, passing the hobby down to my stepson and his friends is, I didn't need to do it. They would have found it on their own because it's everywhere now, and it kind of justifies. It kind of makes all of those 8-hour nights sitting up drinking soda, you know, rolling dice with my friends. It kind of validates that. Um, YouTube. I don't know if I got a lot to say about YouTube other than it's like crack. Uh, YouTube's like Walmart. Uh, you can go in looking for one thing and come back out 6 hours later with a cart full of crap you didn't even know you wanted, let alone needed. I don't know how many times I've gone onto Facebook checking to see if I've got posts from family back home or whatnot, and then somebody will have posted a video, so I follow it. Of course, it goes to YouTube. Everything goes to YouTube these days. I'll sit and be watching some video, my mom back home posted about some cute little puppy, and I'm a sucker for dogs, so I'll go watch it. And 6 hours later, I'll be watching something about UFO abductions on Mars. They're not even related. I have no idea how I got there, but I enjoyed every freaking minute of it. Like I said, it's like crack. Do I really care if it tacos? Should I really waste the next 12 minutes watching a video about six unusual but legal pets? No, and no. But I'm going to. Capybaras eat their own poop, apparently. Info I didn't need, but I'm not devastated I learned it. More irony. Two different topics, same channels. Talk about versatile. These guys do everything. I watched the birth of YouTube. Hell, I watched the birth of Facebook and how fast they've grown and developed. It's just outstanding. Um, Now that I find myself actually using it to post my own material, uh, it's just you got to change with the times, I guess. But anyway, again, like I said, the main reason I started using, I made a channel, started using YouTube here is because I've been running games for most of my life. Uh, Over the last, I'd say, 5 years, I've kind of really gotten lazy about it. I've gotten sucked into running modules and pre-written material. It's got its ups and downs. When you run somebody else's material, it's quick. Um, Everything you need is right there. There's really no prep. All you got to do is sit down and read the material and go. Very handy, very convenient for people with lives who don't have time to sit and write their own material. I, however, am not one of those people. I have no life whatsoever. Otherwise, I wouldn't, at 36 years old, at 9 o'clock in the morning, be rambling randomly into my headphones. I do, however, have a problem with pre-created modules. I find that they're very impersonal. Um, I don't find it as rewarding. When I'm done running a module and my group's had a good time, Yeah, okay, that's the main point. That's the goal. Sit down, have a good time. We can get some quality time spent together, make some memories. But I didn't write any of this, so there's really no reward. Well, there's not as much of a reward in it for me. And when I was younger, when I first started gaming, when I first started running my own tabletop, I wrote all my own material. And when those games were finished, it could be the exact same reaction from the group. It just seemed a lot more fulfilling. It seemed like the effort that was put in, the reward was yours. It didn't feel cheapened like somebody else wrote this, so they're really getting the applause. It's like the difference between writing your own movie and hearing people cheer in the theaters, or just taking somebody else's movie and hearing the cheers. It's not as personal. So I kind of fell away from that. I was kind of getting frustrated with the hobby because I just wasn't getting as much out of it as a game master. So I decided, I'm going to get back to my roots. Fifth edition was coming out about the time I was starting to really get frustrated. And one of the things fifth edition bragged that it was capable of is that it was going back to the roots of gaming, back to the theater of the mind. They're trying to get away from the heavy mathematics and where do I get what bonuses, and I got to add what to this roll, and then I got to add a completely different number. They're going back to the theater of the mind, and that's really where I originated from. Just a dumb young kid making crap up that made absolutely no sense. Making up my own rules because I was too lazy to read them. That's what gaming was about, and it was a blast. I decided I want to get back to this. So I sat down and wrote for the first time in years. I'd written a superheroes campaign for Palladium. I'd written my own adventures for Deadlands, but I hadn't actually devoted a lot of time to actually writing anything with a serious plot, any serious engagement. Um, and that's what I wanted to do. I've always wanted to run that 1 to 20 epic campaign that people talk about and remember fondly, 10, 20 years after they experienced it. That's the first game I played. I don't know how much of it my GM actually wrote, but I still remember a lot of that game as vividly as if I played it yesterday. That's a good game. That's what I think every GM aspires to reach, is that game where their players are so absorbed by it and enjoy it so much that it lasts. It's got that a little bit of that immortal. Uh, it sticks around for a while. That's what I wanted to do. So I sat down and I wrote my own campaign that takes the players from level 1 to 20. Um, I actually based it off of a campaign that I created on the fly back when I first met my fiance. Um, we met online, and I had just created a superheroes campaign, and I went onto this program called Trapes. It's an online role-playing virtual tabletop, and I was online looking for a game group, to put together so that I could run this game. I'm driving combine 12 hours a day. I only get 2 or 3 days off a month. Don't got a lot of time to game, so I don't have a lot of time to go out and hang out at friends' houses. So really, the only chance I get to do this is by going online and playing what time I have. So I'm kind of forced to do it online. I can't find anybody even remotely interested in playing a superhero campaign. Everybody wanted fantasy. And I just wasn't into fantasy at the time. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for the last 15, 20 freaking years. I want to step away and do something a little different. I'm missing BattleTech. I'm missing Shadowrun. Hell, I'm even missing Vampire. And I was not a big fan of that game when it came out. LARPing's never really been my thing. But anyway, I step into this one room and it's only got two people in it, and I get to talking to them for a little bit, and I ended up saying screw it. This superheroes campaign's never going to take off, and it never did. I don't even know what happened to it. But these people wanted to play Palladium Fantasy. And Palladium's pretty freaking generic. It doesn't matter what system you play. If you're, playing fantasy, superheroes, whatever, it's pretty much the same. The campaign I had written for superheroes was Palladium. So I was familiar with the rules. I've played in several different versions, several different Palladium products in the past. I had a functional knowledge of how the game worked, so I was comfortable making something to run these guys on. They seemed like decent people. There was a gal named Tara, and there was this guy named Taylor, and I got to befriend them pretty quick, and I started running them on their Palladium Fantasy game they wanted, and I called it Everdark. It was just kind of based on, your evil zombies taking over the world and this and that. And lo and behold, as time progresses, Tara and I actually formed a relationship. And the irony was she had this firm rule where she didn't date the GM. And I don't know if I subconsciously took that as a verbal challenge or what the deal was. But the next thing I know, we're in a firm relationship. Like I said, I'm working 12 hours a day driving a combine out in a hot ass, you know, Eastern Oregon field somewhere every day. I come home exhausted. The last thing I want to do is sit up all night and chat on Skype with somebody. But I did it, and I enjoyed doing it, and I lost a lot of sleep uh, back then just because I wanted to spend time with her. And long story short, I ended up getting engaged, and I moved from Oregon to Michigan to be with her and her son. And I haven't regretted it since. Um, I'm not sure really where this tangent came from. The point is that I've been running games for a while. Everdark, that's where it came from. Okay. Um, so I got here and I started running tabletop games, and the Everdark introduced me to a few new people. Taylor and Tara brought in a couple of their friends that they had gamed with online, Gavin and Katie, and they're both over in Britain or Europe or some fucking where. It's probably the same. I don't know crap about what's where on the other side of the pond. As far as I know, Europe and Britain are the same damn thing. But anyway, the point is, these Gavin and Katie, they're both really great people. I love them to death. They're really close friends now. But they started sitting and playing, and we played for quite a while. Everdark was kind of. I never really planned anything. I didn't have time. I just pretty much came home and whatever happened off the top of my head happened. Very organic, very natural, very responsive to the players and what they wanted to do. I was really, really comfortable with winging it back then. Well, then I ended up moving up here, and Everdark kind of died. Uh, my games have a habit of dying when my computers do, or when I just don't have access to the internet for a few months. I don't have a great track record with stuff like that. But anyway, we ended up changing systems. We actually ended up buying Pathfinder and the Kingmaker series. And I started running that, and it was going pretty good for a while. But then my gremlins got back into the net, and computers were dying and people's schedules weren't syncing up, and it became one of those campaigns where it was more of a job, and a hair pulling job at that, than it was something that I actually enjoyed running. So I kind of set that aside. We will be getting back to it at some point in the future, but like I said, it was at about that point I started feeling frustrated because I'd been running these pre-made products for so long. I was kind of losing touch with, why am I doing this? I don't enjoy doing it this way. This is not me. I was starting to feel like my reputation as a game master was getting shot all to hell because, if you can't get into the game you're running, your players can sense that. If you're not excited, if you're not really into the story you're trying to give to them, they can't get into it either. And I was really struggling with that, so I just decided it was time to put that to bed. I was trying to find something else. This was the point where I was beginning to realize, hey, I want to do something. I want to get back to my roots and do something I'm comfortable with. Um, Kind of prove that I haven't wasted the last 20 years of my life for no reason. I have actually developed some skills running games, and I want to redeem myself. And then I remembered Everdark, and they had a lot of fun with Everdark. And I'm like, okay, we'll use that as my framework, and we'll build from there. And that's pretty much what happened. Is I wrote that level 1 to 20 epic. I called it Everdark: Rise of Shadows. It actually occurs earlier in the timeline than the original Everdark did, but they're two completely different systems. We're talking. I'm going to be running this one in fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons. The original Everdark was Palladium Fantasy, so saying it's earlier in the timeline is kind of dumb because it's not even the same timeline. But you understand the point I'm trying to make. Um, the other reason I'm posting this video is because I am going to be, like I said, I'm going to be recording Everdark Shadow Rising. Um, Going to be pretty much audio recording because I found if I video record and audio record at the same time, my poor little computer here just doesn't deal with it very well. So I'm just gonna audio capture everything, and then I'll go back through with like Windows Movie Maker or something to kind of make a video of some sort to overlay on the top of it. Hopefully, it'll be entertaining. The point is, I'm going to be posting these games online to share with you and anyone else who's interested. Hopefully, there will be enough laughs and enough engaging moments to keep you as entertained as we are. A few things I do want to point out, though. I suspect at some point I'm going to have other gamers who are not familiar with my gaming style or me in general listening to these videos, watching these videos. And you're going to notice a few things that, are going to compel you to say something. And you really don't need to. For example, I play very light and loose with the rules. I am a firm believer in we are supposed to be gaming to be having fun. If a rule prevents somebody from doing something that would really allow them to have fun right now, I'm not going to use that rule. These rules are guidelines. They're a framework to build your game in, but they're not the law. So if I don't follow the rules exactly, if I make a mistake on the rules, um, there's no need to go all trolly on me. I anticipate I'll probably have more than my share of that anyway. But I've learned, with my experience gaming, it's not about the rules. It's about the story. It's about the interaction between the players. It's about the memories, and that's what I'm doing this for. So don't pay too much attention to the mistakes that are made with the rules. If we do make a legitimate mistake, we'll catch on eventually. We do try to stay as true to the mechanics as possible, um, but at the same time, if we need to veer away for the sake of the story, we're not object to doing that either. Also, you're going to notice in the same vein that I allow my players a lot of freedom in doing things that are not in the rules. For example, I had one player at one point want to become a master of a certain school of magic, and there just wasn't anything present in the classes that would allow him to do what he wanted to do. So I sat down with him and we worked on it, and we came up with pretty much it was a caster class that allowed them to access a certain school of magic in both the arcane and divine uh, spheres, whatever you want to call it. Um, he was limited in other ways. We did make sure to balance it as much as possible. But that's what I mean. If somebody in my group comes up to me and says, "Hey, can I play this race?" Sure, let's take a look at it. Um, if it's going to have drawbacks or be unbalancing, no. Even then, I'm willing to give it a shot under the understanding that if it does become too unbalancing, or the repercussions of its existence in my campaign become too much for the campaign to hold, then we will have to readdress it and maybe make changes. Okay, that's the way I run my games. It's about the players having more fun with less restriction, but at the same time, not completely disintegrating, and getting rid of all of the rules, and that your whole campaign world just dissolves. Um, my goal with this long-winded freaking video was to pretty much introduce myself and my group, to introduce you to the campaign, Everdark Shadow Rising, that will be coming up. I'm actually beginning it this Saturday. We've been waiting for months to get this game off the ground, and it's actually starting this Saturday. I'm so excited. The campaign's goal is to get the players from levels 1 to 20. Everything will be recorded and turned into videos to share with you guys. Um, I may or may not actually have like side videos where I sit down and have interviews with the individual players to discuss, their characters, their views on role playing in general life. May branch off into. I've been thinking maybe if these videos work and my computer can handle it, I might get into live streaming the games. I'm not really sure exactly how extensive this is all going to get. I will make more videos and keep everyone updated as time progresses. But for now, keep your eye on the channel. After the first game session, I will put together the audio and get it online, and you guys can watch it from there. It will be, I run between 3 and 8 hour game sessions. So even after editing and pulling out the dead space, you're in for long sessions. So keep that in mind. Be warned. There will be a lot more content than this half-hour freaking rant that I've just done. But hopefully now you have some idea who I am, where I come from, uh, what the group is about, and what to expect with upcoming videos. So anyway, I'm going to let you all off here before your brains rot completely out of your heads listening to my monotone. And go see if I can't put some images to this to make it less tedious. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. If you like it, come on back, keep your eye on the channel, and we'll see what other random ridiculousness I come up with. Until then, take care, enjoy your games, live life.